Sorry about the delay.
Hello, welcome back to another episode of Ask the Doctor with Dr. Jeffrey Sherman. Today, we're going to be looking at how the cases have increased dramatically in the US and what people should do to prepare for such an explosion. And the stats in the US right now are that there's 4.1 million cases of COVID-19 in the US, and there's 146,000 deaths. So those numbers are increasing dramatically. Let's welcome Dr. Sherman. Glad to have you on the show.
Thanks for having me. Good to be here. Thank you.
Yes. And we've for the past couple weeks, we've seen that the virus has increased a lot, and now we're finally going to actually address it directly this time. So I guess first and foremost, why do you think it exploded like it did?
A couple of reasons. A few reasons. One is the opening up of the economy a little bit. More bars and restaurants opened up, indoor seating perhaps, particularly getting going off the ground. Indoors is the thing. There's no natural airflow. Whatever hovers around. One person has it, can infect the close knit other members of the group, and so there was a rush to go indoors and open bars, restaurants, salons, and things that require relatively close contact. Some and the non-mask wearing folks, taking into account. So there's that. Also, I think that there's just been a lot more testing, and patients who are asymptomatic just and you're getting some positives there. Skepticism in the test. Patient who's asymptomatic and feels totally normal and tested positive, and how if they're asymptomatic, and they go their entire time. So you get a positive test, you got to quarantine for 14 days. They go 14 days of feeling like nothing's ever happened. So is that a true positive? Number one, and can they infect others? And it's those are counted as positive, so that's upping the numbers, right? So that's what I think is part.
I see. Okay, so we have asymptomatic carriers. So I guess we have a combination of asymptomatic people who unknowingly spread the virus because they may or may not have a mask. And then there's also some false positives that increase the numbers. But for the most part, the numbers are real, of course.
Yeah, they're rising. And I think, I mean, I don't know how long you can blame those protests from early June to count for this. By now, those, if they get infected, those come and gone 14 days. That's 6 weeks ago now, so I don't know if that's part of this. That may have been part of the late June, early July numbers, but now that we're in mid to late July, I don't know if those are playing a role. But I do think there's some false positive tests, but the reason I say that is the hospital numbers and the death numbers are not rising commensurate with the incidence numbers. That's all I'm saying.
Oh, wait. So are you saying the numbers in the hospital that the hospitals are getting are not the same?
They're not peaking or rising as rapidly as the positive test numbers are. If you get a bunch of positive tests, you would suspect that the hospital population would mirror that, but it's not. It's less than what you would expect.
Really?
Yeah, and the death numbers are that too. Now, part of that may be we're just doing a better job of staying at home and not going into the hospital, or or we're treating the patients that are in the hospital better. They're getting a little bit more efficient with that. But the hospital incidents are not consistent with the rise in, if the curve is rising at such a slope of incidents, it's not rising at the same slope of hospitalizations.
Really? Okay. Is that like this in other parts of the country?
I'm just talking generally in the country. Yeah,
Wow.
that's kind of the way it is. It varies region to region, but the overall incidence in the country is not mirroring the hospitalization rate, or vice versa. It's just not the same.
That's very interesting. And I think
Yeah.
that kind of suggests that there's people who are sick who are not going to the hospital. I mean, that should exactly what that means.
There's that, or there's just a lot of patients who are not so sick about it, not so sick with it. Or as
That's
I mentioned, they're just those asymptomatic ones. They're skewing younger. A lot of 18 to 40-year-olds are coming down with it, and they're just not so sick.
Okay, so that's a good point.
They have, and don't even feel problem at all.
And I guess that's actually part of the reason why everyone should wear masks, because until you get tested, you can't actually really know if you have the illness or not, because you could just be a person who gets infected and doesn't actually develop much of anything. And so you might unknowingly transmit it to other people who will get severe symptoms from the disease.
Right. The older folks, the diabetics, the overweights, and so on. Yeah. So that's who you got to be careful with. I mean, you got to be careful with everybody, but if you are asymptomatic and you just got to stay away from. You got to wear the mask and stay away from the older generation in general.
Yes. Speaking of masks, I do have a couple variations with me. I do have the most standard surgical mask layout. I'm sure
I have one of those too. That's a good one.
Exactly. The most common type. I also have this other variant, which looks a little different, but it seems to be similar to the surgical mask because I don't see any kind of filtration node, I guess.
Is that a KN95? Does it say KN95 on there anywhere?
It does not.
Okay.
So I think it's kind of just like a different design for a surgical mask.
Variation on a surgical mask.
And that goes around.
It can form a pretty good seal around there. Then there's the KN95 mask, which is shaped like that, and it's made of the material. That's an N95, right?
It's an N95.
N95 with the rubber bands that go behind your head.
Exactly.
And that's got that valve. Now, you see that valve in the front. That helps the wearer of the mask exhale. So that will protect the user of the mask more than it will prevent. So they're saying now that mask is not so great because that vent is letting stuff out more than if it was there.
That's interesting. Okay.
It's like a one-way valve. It goes out. That's more of a protection of the wearer if you're like in somewhere where there's a big incidence of it. But if you've got the COVID, you're not protecting someone else.
I see. Okay, that's a very good point. That's very interesting. So that's actually a valve that lets air through one way.
That lets you exhale better. It lets your breath out. It's like and then it stops and it closes. Behind there, it's a valve. It lets things.
Exactly. It is a little flap.
Things in, it'll let things out.
Okay, so in that case, to protect others, you think I could?
Yeah, that's
wear
the best
both?
to protect others.
You think?
Yes.
You think I could wear both?
Do both. You can wear both. Absolutely. You can do that. That's what I would recommend doing is wear both in that circumstance. They make N95s without that valve, in which you would not need to wear both. But with that valve, you would put that extra one on top. That would prevent the spread of the wearer there. Yes.
Earlier you mentioned something called a K95 mask. I don't actually. What do those look like? If you,
they look very much like that other surgical mask you just had up a minute ago. That duckbill looking one. That one, yeah. They look like that. they're made of the N95 material. Okay, so it's the same material with the same layers of protection with those ear flaps like this. You see the N95 in your left hand.
Yeah.
That is got the rubber straps that go behind the back of the head, and it forms a very tight seal around the face. The KN95 is made of the same material with the ear flaps, so the seal around the face is not as tight, but it still has the same material, so it's protecting you for the most part the same way. In theory, stuff can get behind the mask that way, but the KN95 is the same material, so it's got the same penetrance. It's just the seal that's the difference.
Okay, that's really neat. I remember seeing masks that are actually shaped like this, but they do also have a valve, like on this N95 mask.
Right.
And I imagine
the valve
they have...
allows the user to exhale, and you would assume the user of that mask is negative, but it still does no protective of
right.
It's not. There's no barrier on that.
All right, that's very good to know. Very important to know. I do have some other protective gear that is not quite over the mouth, such as, I think, somewhat standard laboratory goggles.
Yeah. The virus can enter the eyes, especially the larger droplets, and you go around the eyes and sides of the eyes. That's an excellent barrier.
There it is.
You can go swimming with that. You can do chemistry experiments, or you can protect yourself from COVID.
Right.
With those goggles.
I imagine if you're like in a space that could be dense with the virus, then you would want to eliminate the risk of it going on your eyes, such as maybe an airplane ride.
Yeah, there, or or if you have to go places, airplane where it's tightly corded. You can spread out in other places, but planes, you would wear glasses or the goggles. You certainly would wear a mask, N95 mask even, and then just be protected.
Mm-hmm. And then of course I have the face shield, which is kind of like a mask.
The eyes as well.
Yeah, it protects basically
that
everything.
Plus a mask is a pretty good combination. That plus a mask is a good combination. It'll protect your eyes with the mask, and everything will be protected. So that's a good tool. It's hard to breathe in that. You can't wear that for too long. With that, even without a mask, it's hard to breathe. And then with a mask, it's even more. Plus, you're covering your head a little bit. You're going to overheat. So you got to make things quick with something like that. Errands into a crowded store, supermarkets, whatever. But just walking outdoors or leisurely stuff may not be necessary. But like I said, it can be confining, and so you want to not get claustrophobic or overheated.
Yeah, I guess getting fresh air is important, but you have to be careful to do it safely away from others. Right. So I guess that was a whole bunch of external protection factors, and now I do have zinc supplements, and I think you know a lot about how zinc works.
I have some zinc here also. The Cold Ease lozenge.
Right. I have Cold Ease somewhere.
That's got zinc. That's got the good daily amount of zinc you need in one little lozenge, about 30. I think it's 13 some odd milligrams of elemental zinc in each one of those. What does that supplement you're holding tell us?
This says there's 30 milligrams of zinc per serving, which is 2 capsules. There's also vitamin C in it.
So 30 there. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. Yeah,
so that's that daily dose of zinc is, like we talked about in some earlier shows, keeps your zinc levels up, makes the virus less likely to stick to you, to hold its own. And if you do get it, it'll make a case much less potent, if you will, if you get it at all.
Right, yeah. So the zinc it makes the virus able to infect your cells slower, or maybe not at all.
and there were two that showed patients did a little bit better. Hospitalized patients did better if they had good levels of vitamin D.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. So that means vitamin D supplements, if you're staying indoors a lot, which I guess a lot of us should be, um, then vitamin D supplements are probably very important for us to keep our bodies up to shape for this virus.
But if you can, unlike vitamin D supplement, and I've got some of those in my drawer at home.
Nice. Yeah. Let's see. One important thing I think people need to know is that you don't technically get vitamin D from the sun, like directly. You get something
Right.
called vitamin D3, and then it goes through some kind of processing in your skin cells, and that creates vitamin D.
Yeah. The vitamin D that you can use in the bloodstream through that process.
Yeah.
So it's not like the sun's sprinkling vitamin D out of the air. You know,
Right.
you're making it internally. But the supplements are good too. But my point is, yeah, multivitamins, vitamin C, good for the immune system, vitamin D, zinc, all the B complexes, things that'll keep your immune system on the healthier side when able to fight off the virus. Not to be confused with the overactive immune system, which is separate problem than just a healthy immune system. That overactive, that cytokine storm thing, that's a problem. That's not associated or as a result of getting too much vitamin C, for example. It's
Okay.
just it's your genetic immune system situation.
All right. I guess that's very important too. So people shouldn't be suppressing their immune system by being malnourished. That will be bad.
Right. Yeah. So, hydration, good nutrition, vitamins, outdoor activity, moving around. Um, you know, that's good for the immune system. That's the way to beat this thing. There's no time to get your immune system. That's the way to keep going forward now. It's not going to help us when this whole thing started. You got to start your immune system. Got to be proactive as soon as you can going forward.
Exactly. And being exercised helps your body in general, but as well as your immune system.
Yeah, stronger bones and just overall stronger, well-being.
Do you think any kind of exercise indoors should work?
If you can do indoors exercise, sure. I mean, you can do yoga. You can do these online exercise boot camps. A lot of people, of course, have their own machines at home with the Peloton and the elliptical. But if you don't have that, you can go online and do these online exercise programs for half an hour or 20 minutes. Some are free, some don't are money. But yeah, that's what you can do. But walking or moving outside's always the best thing.
Right.
You have stairs in your house, you can do flights of stairs. Do it that way. Just move around.
Yeah, it's very important to not stay sedentary too long because that has been associated with all kinds of things, basically negative.
Right.
For example, the other day, I actually did a bunch of jumping jacks until my muscles were sore, and
Yeah.
which I hadn't done for a while, and I felt pretty good about it. And
Jumping jacks, burpees, if you know what a burpee is, it's like you jump up, crouch down, extend your legs, crouch back in, jump up, down, back and forth. Those are those are not fun, and you can get a good workout by doing just 10 of those in a row, and you're in good shape. You're squatting, you're lifting up, you're jumping. It's a good exercise. This is coming from someone who knows how to do them but never does them.
Yep. The life of a lot of us, actually, knowing what we should do but not actually doing it. That's how it goes. Well,
yeah.
I would like to bring it back a little bit to the central, I guess, talk of this episode, which is about how there's a lot of cases increasing right now, and what exactly we should be doing, because of what's going on.
Well, they measure that. I wanted to bring that up again. Thanks for bringing that back around. I wanted to talk about the R naught figure. R naught or R zero or the R number.
I've seen that before. So I know what you're talking about. But
That's how we know how many people are being affected. The R, it's like the abbreviated R
okay,
naught or RT. It's a number. If one is, it's how many people are being infected by one infected person.
okay,
Generally, in the way things are. So right now, it's 1.1, meaning one infected person affects 1.1 other people. How do you affect zero point 0.1? 10 people infect 11, in that multiple or so.
okay.
You want to get that below one. You want to get that, obviously, you want to get it to as low as possible so one person doesn't affect barely anybody, because that means they're not going out. We're very contained. But if 10 people are affecting 11, that's not good. That's going up. It's better than
Exactly.
10 people affecting 12 or 10 people affecting 15, but it's still, we want to keep that number down. We want to get it to below one. And that's the number they use to determine what gets opened and what gets closed in terms of, the community and services and things like that. So if that R number is going up to 1.1, 1.17, 1.2, whatever, we're we're not open. That's look for how is control.
So I guess things like, of course, wearing masks, social distancing, quarantine, and all of that are things that bring the number lower just because people aren't infecting other people as often. And that's what's important for decreasing the severity of this disease, is making sure that you're not infecting other people, making sure other people aren't infecting other people. And that's why you have to wear masks and try to get other people who don't wear masks to understand that they need to.
On the number.
All right, is it working now? Sorry, you're.
Yeah, did you get that last point on the number? That's the like the parameter on how we open to society. We want to get that number
No,
down so it's not so
I
rampant.
think I might have missed the last 30 seconds. So
Yeah, it's just a way to determine how rampant the virus is and how much it's spreading. If it's
I see.
confined, that number.
I would have actually expected the R value, the R naught value, to be actually a little higher than 1.1. But I guess the 1.1 is actually devastating because there's just so many people infected already.
Yeah, I mean, you're taking away those. Uh, it's it, it's a number. I mean, a little bit in terms of it's the trend. It's the day to day change.
The day-to-day chain. Okay.
How is day to day? You want going down.
Right, right. We want there to be less infection. We want less new people being infected than previously infected people. So, and that's a value lower than R naught.
Yeah.
Exactly. We have
Yeah. So it's it's just You keep a distance, you wash your hands, you stay away, you cover your face, you're in good shape.
Exactly. Do all the things that basically we've been advocating that you should do, and everyone's been advocating we should do, so that we can slow down this disease
Yeah,
to the point where we're fine.
exactly.
We do have a question from the chat about the zinc. Does it matter what kind of zinc you take? Because there's things like zinc oxide, zinc sulfate.
No, but whatever. I mean, those zinc oxide's usually not sort of an edible form, and it
Oh,
doesn't get
okay.
absorbed in the skin if it's an ointment. But you take straight elemental zinc, however you want to do it. Zinc sulfide, zinc this, zinc that. I think zinc picolinate is what's in the. It's what's in the
And
coldies.
coldies, yeah.
It's the elemental zinc that you want to get. However you get that in there is it doesn't matter if capsules, tablets, supplements, lozenge, zinc this form, that form. You get the elemental zinc in you, you're fine. You get your zinc levels to a decent level in the bloodstream, you're fine.
All right. I think we should start to wind down now for the show. So
Okay.
I guess the cases have been increasing greatly in the United States, and essentially to bring those numbers back down, we have to make sure we're more vigilant. We have to do all the things that we've done before but may have stopped doing now, and that's starting to show its effects.
Yeah, and I mean, do the distance, wash your hands, keep the social stuff down for now still. I tough go, but if everyone wears a mask every time they go out, and if you keep the distance, this thing can be squashed in about a month and a half. So there's still the non-mask wearers, the people who gather yards with too many people, and that's just not without masks. I mean, you wear the mask, we can, like I said, we can squash for 6 weeks.
Exactly. This is a hidden disease, so to say, in that people can spread it without showing symptoms. So that's why it's imperative that everyone wears masks.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you for being here on Ask the Doctor. Oh. Was there anything else you wanted to talk about before we end off?
Nope, sounds good. We're all good there.
All right. All right. So thank you for coming on to us with Ask the Doctor with Dr. Jeffrey Sherman. We hope you take this advice very seriously, and see you next week. Stay safe, wear those masks, social distance, wash your hands, and if you can, maybe take zinc supplements to prevent severe COVID case or prevent it entirely. And there are additional protection things like goggles and a face shield if you want to protect yourself even more in case you do go into some kind of dense setting. So until next week, stay safe.
Thank you.